it's kind of good to know, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
why you're doing certain things. So that's a great
Exactly.
question. Yeah. So what's kind of your goal? You kind of mentioned you just have a duplex right now, and I assume you just have a house that you're currently living in
Yeah,
Seattle.
that's those are yeah, that's true. Those are the only two houses that I have. And my goal, I resigned from my job. So I'm going to do like a locums now just to give me more free time to focus on the other things that I want to do. Um, and
Hmm.
then um, and then so the for the active income losses, the only way like we can do either rep status versus a doing an STR, and I don't want to do the rep status this year. I may think about doing it in the next couple of years, but right now, I mean, I have to have like some real estate to kind of, you know, do that. But this year I'm thinking of an STR. So I'm looking for a market, and I'm, trying to decide which market. And it's difficult to make the numbers work with the 9% interest rate. So
Yeah, yeah. So between the 9% interest rate and then also, using property management, they're charging a
right,
high fee.
right,
So the only way to make
right.
it work is, maybe you have to just kind of break even until interest rates drop down. Um,
And then we
like
can.
during this time, unfortunately, it's like a bad time right now, relatively speaking. Ironically, I appreciate my job a little more now. I
Yeah.
definitely hated my job like 2 years ago, and that's why I bought so much real estate. But given it's harder times now, it made me really appreciate my day job because you know how it goes. Whether you put in 1 hour work that day or 10 hours of work that day, you still get paid 8 hours a day, regardless of how much work you put in, and it's like guaranteed income, for the most part, every 2 weeks. It's good to kind of still work if you can, obviously during the bad times, but then, yeah, I'm hoping during the next bull run, hopefully in like a year or two, that's when like all my current real estate just skyrockets and I can have the option to just, kind of step back a little bit and then, do other things. But definitely, um, have been thinking about the STR route. From what I've kind of learned so far, you have to like create a unique experience. Like it cannot just be like a normal run of the mill house. Like you have to be like very, very unique and offer certain things that are like very unique, like doing yoga or pickleball court or mini golf in the backyard, pool, just a bunch of random things. And you have to kind of create your um, kind of property
Niche.
management systems and VAs and to save
Yeah.
money. And that takes time to build that too, because you have to go through multiple VAs, you have to train them, create processes, find your team. So, but once you have that, it's easy to scale, right? Like once you have that all established, it's, whether you have like, one or five STRs, it's kind of the same deal.
Same.
Um,
Hmm.
so my fear of STRs though was that just oversaturation. Obviously I'm not in the games, I don't know, but there's
Right.
always a need for
Right.
long-term rental housing. So if
Right.
you think about my apartment complex, like I think about not many people do this, but imagine you get an apartment complex, you have 20 units. Let's say 15 units are dedicated towards long-term rental tenants. You have five
And then
units that
five.
you can have
Right.
STR, and you have the
Right.
best of both worlds.
Right.
Like you could have two 10 plexes right next to each other, and like maybe one 10 plex is long-term rental, the other one short-term rental. And if you can kind of create a unique experience and you're close to like good areas, then it can definitely work. So that's what I kind of like about multifamily is you can always go from long-term rental to short-term rental. But I'm sure, as you know, when you buy a short-term renter, make sure it works as a long-term rental as well, just in case,
Right.
right? So
Right. That's true.
you always have to have like multiple exit strategies because you don't know, because
Right.
people may not be as like traveling as much, or during COVID, all the tech workers were just staying in Airbnbs in different areas, and it was just a lot more demand than before. And obviously, a lot more people are getting into the game now, so it's definitely more competition than what there used to be back in like 2017 when it got really hot. So,
Right.
but yeah, it seems like you're on the right track, though. I mean, like I said, you just have to, whatever model you pick, um, just stick to it. I talked to a guy where he's making 20K a month through his short term rentals, and then he actually went to partner and buy a hotel. And I remember asking him, like, because that was my question. I'm like, well, why didn't you just continue to scale your short term rental portfolio instead of dive to hotel? But he just said that, well, I just wanted to scratch that itch. And once but that's a luxury you have, right? If you have 20K a month
Right.
in
Right.
income, you can afford to take that risk just to scratch the itch because you met all your basic needs already,
Right.
right? So that's what I'm trying to do. So, obviously I'm trying to get my basic needs met first, and at that point you can take that risk. But I kind of hit the point, at least right now, where just like, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Like, yes, I can make money in mobile home parks. Yes, I can make money self storage, but is it worth the additional, mental energy? Is it worth the additional stress? And I'm not getting that much juice compared to if I just put that same money into something I'm already really good at. That's just the
Right.
kind of way I thought. And, like if you think about the billionaires, they could do like one thing for a long time, right? Like, I'm not sure if you know Chick-fil-A, but the owner of Chick-fil-A,
Yeah.
he's been making chicken for 90 years. And finally, they just became really popular. But he's been making chicken, crafting chicken for 90 years, and eventually you make it better and better.
Right.
So he didn't do chicken and like, oh, I don't like chicken anymore, I'm gonna do beef. Then, oh, I don't like beef anymore, I'm gonna do plant-based. And I don't like that, I'm gonna do whatever, turkey. He just did chicken. And now they're growing so rapidly.
Right.
So, just that's the hard part of having an entrepreneur mindset, is saying no to everything else and having the patience of doing just whatever one thing it is. You do those two things, you'll be wealthy in whatever you do. It's almost like they almost like be like a monk or something at it, just be patient and fend off all distractions, because everything else, every other thing I did that deviated from multifamily and single family homes, I lost money on and wasted time. I tried opening a pharmacy. Distraction, I lost money. I tried the Amazon store, distracted
Yeah.
me, lost money. I tried a mobile home park, distracted me, lost money. So, it's hard to do it. Like I say, if you like doing different things, don't do it in real estate. Do it somewhere else, like a hobby or something. Channel it somewhere else, or talk to people who are doing what you want to do and live through them. Like,
Right.
so
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. Yes.
yeah, great. So okay, so basically, you said you're kind of stepping down to kind of more contract work right now, and kind of
Yeah.
setting up, an STR. I mean, kind of stepping down to that range.
Yeah, I'm open. Actually, I was open to multifamily, but I did not. I started thinking about it initially, but then I didn't know how. My main focus was to kind of reduce the taxes, and I did not find a way of how. I mean, I was thinking about buying a fourplex and doing like renting out some of them for STR and LTR, but I was not able to kind of. I think my main aim is I've been in an analysis paralysis situation about the market, and
Yeah,
so I think that's the thing that is holding me right now, because for anything out of state, you need to go there and fly and check it out very often, because otherwise you don't know what the contractor is doing, how much are they charging you. They can easily fool you around if you don't go and step your just go and do it, look at it yourself.
yeah. I kind of. So I renovated 40 units in 1 year,
Wow.
and I'm in California. I have my apartments in Oklahoma, and I'm at mobile park in Alabama. And I
Wow.
only flew over to Oklahoma one time, Alabama one time, and I only flew over there when I bought it. So you have to
Oh,
create systems in place for double check processes. And yes, I will preface, you will get cheated on. It's going to happen. I probably got cheated out some way. I probably even know, right? It's just
right.
cost of doing business and the cost of doing real estate. So what I do is, so for example, my property manager, my 26 unit, my property manager is my general contractor. So what I have him do is, I have a lot of trust in him because I was referred over to him and I know he does it. But what I do is I want you to send me photos every week, right? So send me the photo. Hey, you replaced the kitchen. I want to see the kitchen before. I want to see the kitchen after. Yes, they could cheat the photos. You're absolutely
Right.
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 Or you can just video call them, like what we're doing right now. Just say, hey, let's do a video call. I want you to walk me through all the units that you just renovated and describe everything for me, right? So that's one way that I trust but verify. Another method is if you have a separate contractor and a separate property manager, which I do in my 20 unit, what I do is I tell the contractor, okay, every Friday I will pay you. I will reimburse you for whatever labor you. So most contractors, what they do is, I think you cover the materials, and after that, on a weekly basis, you pay for labor. That's usually how I do it. So every Friday is when I pay them. I will say, hey, you're gonna have to write down everything you did for that Friday. My property manager is gonna come over there with your list and verify everything. And once everything's verified, they will pay you.
Gotcha. Mhm.
Right? So you have to create systems around that. So that's a little bit of a limiting belief that I had to overcome too. And just know that, yes, there might be times where we get cheated. I'm pretty sure I got bids that were higher than I should have been. I'm
Right.
sure that I can't go there and inspect the quality. I mean, I don't
Right.
even know, right? I'm a pharmacist. What do I know about like
No, yeah, exactly.
nutrition, right? Like, let's be honest here, right? Like, what do we know? I'm not a contractor. So you have to create systems. So usually your property manager is the way that verifies it, because they're the ones who will inspect and say, hey, like, because before a tenant moves in, they do a whole inspection of your unit. And let's just say, hey, I renovated this, but this baseboard's missing over here. Then they're going to tell the contractor, hey, like, we paid for that. You got to go fix that baseboard or replace it. So that's how you create your checks and balances between your property manager and your general contractor, and then you being in the loop, right? And then once you know how to renovate one property, copy and paste. If you look at all my 90 units, they all look the same. Same flooring, same color scheme, whatever that looks like. So, definitely you don't have to be there all the time. I mean, obviously, like, if these apartment complex were in California, yeah, I'd probably drive over once a quarter to like look at it. But since it's so far away, I cannot do that. So it's kind of nice because it's kind of training me to be like not needing to be there physically. Obviously if I'm going to buy something, usually I need to be there because like, you're spending a lot of money. And at that point, usually I would look at my other properties if I'm there already. So just keep that in mind that like, you don't have to be there. Even I bought my 20 unit kind of sight unseen. I kind of knew the area, but I would talk to my property manager, and then because they know the areas better than me, and they would tell me like, hey, is it high crime there? And if they're like, yeah, I wouldn't manage that property because there's too much crime there, then at that point you just back off, don't even buy it. Right? Versus if they say, oh, that's a great area, like, you can get this much rent and all that stuff. And at that point it's worth pursuing. And something that I just kind of thought, and you can check out one of my videos, but if interest rates are high, you can do creative financing. You can take over loans subject to. If the property is owned free and clear, they can become the bank for you. So there's other ways to do it. Like, like the key for what I tell people, and a lot of people get in real estate, just make offers that make sense for you. And if they turn you down, whatever. But what it gets you in the habit of is taking action. And that helps a lot with analysis paralysis. I've had the same thing. I used to think multifamily was impossible for someone like me. I thought that was only for rich people who were worth, $100 million, until I started seeing people just like me who work a W-2 job just like me buying apartments. And once I kind of saw that, I just said, okay, it's doable. And, fast forward, a couple of years, I own like 90 units. So I think that's what kind of helped me just make offers, even if it's so low and they're not going to say no to it. Just get in the habit of making an offer, and then they at least know that you kept your word. If I say, hey, I'm going to make you an offer by this Friday, you'll see an offer from me from this Friday, whether you like the offer or not. At least you know that I took the initiative. And at that point, if it's owned free and clear, you can inherit the loan, right? So what people do is like, let's just say someone has a $100,000 loan at 3% interest and they want to sell for $200,000. You can take over that loan payment, subject to, and then you can ask them, can you carry a promissory note for whatever 80K at 5% interest only, and then I'll just give you 20K down. Right? As long as the numbers work on the property and you can afford that, you can pick your terms. So that's something that like I've been kind of looking at, because I'm at the point where I'm running out of capital, obviously. Unless I do cash out refinances on my my 26 unit, but my interest rate's at 4%. I don't want to lose that loan. So it doesn't make sense to cash out refinance. But if interest rates drop down to like 5, I might do it. But I'm out of capital, so I'm actually looking at doing some creative financing strategies where I can just take over a property subject to. Maybe somebody has no equity in the deal and they just want to sell it because of whatever situation they're in. So usually the best way to buy property subject to is they're selling a house and they already have the house they're living in next. So what does that tell you? They don't need the money to buy the next house. They already have the next house. So what you have to pitch to them is, I'll take over your payments, but I'll also pay you money on the equity that you own. So it's doing better. Like me paying you 7% is better than your money sitting in Chase or Wells Fargo, which pays like nothing essentially. So it's just a matter of finding those type of buyers. And that's what I'm kind of like pivoting towards, because like either A, you have to partner with people. I don't prefer to do that, or B, you go create a financing route where you do low money down. So for me, I'm actually prefer going that low money down route. And I think this is a great time to do it because interest rates are so high, and you can tell people like, hey, why don't you become the bank and you make the money? Like, I don't want to, why should the bank make the money? You should be making the money. And what are you doing with your money? So, but that takes a lot of trust, building with the owners. And, something that's kind of confusing for people is like, let's just say I were to buy your property subject to your name is still on the loan,
Okay.
but then the deed goes under my name. And then what happens is you continue to pay Wells Fargo, and then I will pay you. So I pay you the loan amount plus whatever the promissory note is, and then you take that money and then you pay your lender. So, so I'm really looking at doing that. Because I own a single family home in Huntsville, Alabama, actually, and looking to do that because, like, some properties may not have gone up in equity, and maybe people want to sell, and that's when you can take over property subject to, and then just give them a promissory note. So you're doing very low money down deals. So that's what I've been kind of noodling a bit, but I burned myself out a bit. So doing 90 units and 40 renovations in 1 year. So, I'm just trying to it's funny. Like, we real estate investors complicate our lives massively. And then once we hit a certain amount of wealth, we spend a lot of money to simplify our lives.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a full circle, right? Like, my life was very simple.
Right.
I bought 90 units and now it's very complicated. And now I'm trying to simplify my life again.
Right.
So if you can if you know that picture, just keep your life simple, but slowly, gradually grow. Right? Like, I'm not sure if you're into like spirituality,
Yeah.
but like in kind of like Asian Buddhism, like life's a circle.
Yeah.
That's the whole reincarnation thing.
Right.
Right? But the problem with life being in a circle is that you never take action. You're stuck in this.
Right. Right.
But in American society, life is like a straight line going up. Like, we must be doing something at all times.
Yeah.
Action. Right? That's
Right.
That's the drastic. So if you listen to a lot of ancient sayings, the truth is always somewhere in the middle. So what does that look like? Imagine a spiral of circles, but it slowly goes up. So there's periods where you're going in a circle, but then you're gradually going upwards. So like, once I kind of learned that, obviously I was at the point where I was just going in a circle doing nothing. Then I hit the point where I was a straight line, vertical line.
Yeah.
I was a vertical line. And
Yeah.
now I'm kind of pivoting towards, like, I'm going in circles, but gradually it's spiraling upwards. But if you can kind of learn that early, that's how you build a real estate portfolio without like burnout, and you can do it for like 30 years. So a lot of people don't talk about that stuff. I learned it firsthand because I bought 80 units in 8 months. And in that 8-month window, I had 2 other 50-unit apartment complex under contract, which fell through due diligence. So I was the definition of like just straight line up. So, I think there's ways to do it. Just do it in a way where, it makes sense. Like, would I do 3 value add mobile apartment complexes again? No, just one at a time.
Right.
It takes 3 years. Like, just so you know, if you buy an apartment complex, does it take you 3 years to stabilize it if you're renovating it?
Okay.
So just know that, like, if you buy an apartment complex, know that you're not going to probably buy anything for at least 2-3 years until it's stabilized. It would be reckless to do so. So that's what I'm learning. So I bought 80 units in 1 year, so I'm good for like maybe 5 years. So it's okay to go slow, and whatever. If you make 100 offers or 1,000 offers and you only get one deal, but one deal is sometimes enough. If that one deal is like a 40-unit apartment complex, that's enough to honestly retire, someone from their day job, or maybe the whole family from their day job, once
Right.
it's stabilized after, 3 years. So, it just requires that patience. And, a lot of people, they give up. Like I send mailers out, and a lot of the people I teach, they give up after like 3 months. I say, you have to do it like for a year at least to get any results.
Yeah.
So like it feels bad. I get it. Like you send out letters, it costs money to do that, and then people reject you, but you have to keep on going, and eventually you'll get that one guy who owns a 40-unit apartment complex, and he'll sell or finance you the deal, and you're able to double the rents. You get one of those deals, it'll cover all the money you spent on your marketing, all your effort that you ever spent. So once you realize that, you just have to like kind of wait for that one deal. So that's what I want to practice. Like I'm like, I have no money to buy real estate. I can either A, just stop and do nothing, or B, I just can make offers on deals with low money down. And worst case, they say, no, I don't care. Like, I don't need the real estate anyways. I can still, I have 50 or whatever, 50 units after I sell my part. Like, that's fine, right? There's no rush for me.
Right.
It's when you act in too much urgency and rush is when you make dumb, stupid decisions. Versus I'm like, hey, I'll make an offer. You see my offer, maybe he'll call me back in 6 months. Maybe he won't, right? But they remembered you. Like, oh, you're that guy who made me that offer. And they'll call you back. That happened to me before. I made an offer, he didn't take it. He called me back like 3 months later. Hey, you still interested? You never know, right? So all you can do is just make an offer that makes sense for you, and throw out whatever out there into the universe, and whatever the universe gives back to you, it could be a great deal. So yeah, that's kind of like what I learned. So, I saved you the headache of buying 80 units in 8 months. If you take that advice.
No, I would definitely take both of your advices. Both of them were very, very great. And I'm going to jot it down on a piece of paper. Yes, I'm going to remember that. The spiral should go up slowly
Yeah.
according to what you can digest rather than just kind of being, aggressive. Yeah.
Yeah, because scaling too fast is not good either. And then, taking no action is not good. So it's that
Yes.
spiral, slowly going up. And I was like, I've been doing this for 6 years. I just realized it like this week. So when someone described it to me, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Because you always want to make a little bit of progress, but not too much where you burn out. Because the people who lose in real estate are the ones who fix and flip constantly. They burn out because you constantly need deal flow. Right.
Right.
But if you slowly buy 1 or 2 deals, gradually, right? Maybe the first 10 years I buy 50 units. The next 10 years I buy 100 units. The next 10 years I buy 200 units. Fast forward, that's, 350 units. Like that's way more money than I would know what to do with. And, way more money than whatever my future kids and grandkids will need. So like you don't need a lot to basically achieve whatever it is you want to do. So, I think a lot of syndicators, they're like, oh, I bought 1,000 units in a year. Great. But, you only own a small percentage of that deal. And syndicators mostly make money through, buying and selling because they get the fees.
Right.
So they're incentivized to buy and sell to get the fees to pay for their staff. Versus like, if you buy yourself, you can just do whatever you want. You're your own boss. Like you don't have to sell. You can keep it, or you can sell and trade up, or you can do whatever it is you want to do. Right? You can hold it for the rest of your life, or you can pay it off. Do whatever you want. Right? Like,
right.
That's what I thought too. Like I was the type where I believed in leverage. I want to leverage as much as possible, but now I'm thinking, like my apartment complexes I bought for $500,000. My loan is only $390K. If I'm cash flowing $10K a month on those properties after stabilization in 3 years, that's $120K a year. If I throw all that money into my apartment complex in 3 years, it's paid off.
Right.
In 6 years, I could pay off 2 apartment complexes that gross me $30K a month. No debt. And assuming 50% expense, that's $15K a month. That's more than most jobs. That's more than my job, right? That's a household income.
Right.
2 household incomes. At that point, you're done. Right? you own 50 units, they're all paid off, you gross 30K, you're done. You don't do anything. You can just relax and do whatever it is you want to do. So once I kind of learned that, I was like, I may not want to cash out refinance my properties and pull out more money. If you want to grow, yes, that's what you do. But if you want to build a foundation where you can leave your job, then you want to, pay off properties that you can. Then once you have paid off properties and you have that baseline, like if my baseline is 15 to 20K a month, at
Right.
that point, I can then scale real estate again and build upon that foundation, right? So you want to build a big base. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy. But once you build that big base, it's easy to build a tall building on top of that.
Right.
So that's the part where, myself included, we fall victim to that. Because I always see the stories in the podcast. Oh, I retired in 2 years buying 6 rentals. And I'm just like, I own 90 units. I've been doing this for 6 years. I'm not retired. And, it's discouraging. So, but if you build that big foundation, which I'm building, believe me, like the moment I start to scale, it's going to be huge again. Right? Because I would already have learned everything. I would have know the market. I would know the system. I'd have a system in place. At that point, you just get some capital. If I want to